What's going on, guys? Welcome to Breaking Tackles, the New York Giants podcast, alongside with my co-host Sal, aka Queens Guy. I'm Antonio, man. What's going on, everybody? Good week for us. Another victory Wednesday now for the Giants, man. It's been a good week for us. The Giants are in 4-1. We got Mike C in the building. Mike, what's going on, brother? How are you? How you living? How you feeling, bro?
Feeling good, feeling good. I'm enjoying the season thus far. It's been a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely. Sal, what's going on, bro? How you feeling, man? After a 4-1 start, bro?
I'm feeling good. I'm loving it. I enjoy winning. I know we're going to get into that whole topic of winning versus maybe not winning for draft
Oh,
capital.
yes.
I'm enjoying the start. It feels good to finally be winners.
So, and big shout outs to our boy Manny who was in the chat with us. Manny, what's going on? Shout out to everybody who's gonna be on the chat with us. Kevin, what's going on, man? Of course, we still pump. Everybody's pumped by the win, and we're now slowly transitioning, or now full transitioning. Now that it's Wednesday, into Ravens week, so we'll touch base on the Ravens. But what I want to do is get your thoughts real quick on the Green Bay game and just what's been going on this week with the Giants. Let's just start with that, man. Green Bay was a game that I personally said there's probably no chance. That was my first game of the season where I was like, we have no chance of winning that game, especially without Leonard Williams being there. The Giants pulled 27 points out of nowhere. First time that we get 27 points all season. It was arguably Daniel Jones' best game of his career. I know that Mike said that. I've seen him say that on tweets. I think it was his best game of the season. For sure, best game of this season. I wouldn't say it's the best game in my opinion, it wasn't the best game of his career, but it's definitely, it's up there for sure with one of the best games that he's had. Mike, I'll start with you, bro. Like, not even about Jones, and we will get into Jones, but just at this game, what surprised you about this game? And you was like, wow, I did not see that happening.
Oh, I didn't. I don't think I said Jones had the best game of his career. I said he had the best drive
Oh, the best
of his
drive.
career.
Okay, gotcha.
Best
That
drive of
definitely
his
was.
career.
That definitely was.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was the best drive of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Going into that game felt pretty much like there was not much of an opportunity for them to win that game. But as the game went on, you could kind of get the sense of where things were going. The Giants have done an excellent job being a second half team. As far as making adjustments are concerned,
The best second
they
half team, yeah.
they really put the Packers in a rough spot. They get the Giants get the ball. They go on a 7.5 minute drive where they're really keeping Green Bay's offense out of rhythm, out of sync. They can't get on the field. So you're doing that, and you can kind of get the sense almost like Green Bay starts pressing a little bit, even though they still had the lead. You can kind of get the sense they're starting to press. They're playing a little bit tighter because the Giants were able to control and dominate the line of scrimmage. The
Right.
offensive line played exceptionally well. I thought they looked great. I mean, there were several plays. I think they even lined up Thomas and Neal directly next to each other in an unbalanced line at one point. Like there was a lot of stuff going on where they are utilizing the team to take advantage of their opportunities the best they can. Um, and overall, it's a good win, right? So, for me, I'm a very much in the camp of you got to show me before I'm going to start to buy into what it is that you're selling, especially when it's been a shit product for as long as it's been. You got to show me.
Right.
But if you're gonna win a game against Green Bay like that, and that's a game you don't expect to win. Now, I do usually say at the beginning of the year, there's at least one game a year that they win that just you don't expect them to win the game, but somehow they find a way to win it.
But wasn't that the Titans
Um,
game?
so I thought that.
Yeah.
I thought that. I did think that in the beginning, but this may have been the one.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
could have been the one, but my level of expectations are going to increase,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for
So
sure. For sure.
if we're going to win games like we won against Green Bay, and I'm expecting a much better showing home this week against Baltimore. So I know
100%.
we're going to get into that, but yeah, I would expect a much better showing. But overall, it's nice to come out of there with a win. You can see the young guys getting confidence
Mm-hmm.
to win. You know, I'm not slandering Daniel Jones at all this week. I thought he did.
I'm taking a 4-week
Well,
suspension of slandering Jones.
it's not about slander. I think what he did this past Sunday was he played like a top level game manager. That's
Yeah.
how he played.
Yeah.
No,
I agree with that 100%. That's a really good assessment. Limit your.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he was a force multiplier at all in a game. Like he did make some plays on the drive. Like I said, it was his best drive of his career. But for the most part, he's been good at facilitating. He's not making mistakes this year. He's not taking a lot of chances, but he's not making mistakes. They're playing super conservative. The play calling is aiding him and protecting him from having to think out there, which clearly we know is an issue for him. So they're keeping things very simple in that regard, and he's playing within that system and doing well. But we got to see how it continues to progress. But when I looked at the stats, you're not going to tell me that in the modern NFL that a quarterback over 17 weeks that's on pace to throw for 11 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, that's somebody that you want to give $30 million to.
So I get
that's just
no, I get that 100%. But what about this game though? Like I agree with you in the most part that it hasn't been nothing wow out of Jones. But what about do you feel the same way about this specific game? Because I do think he did take it's a little bit on his shoulders the reason why that we won this game more than any other win that we have out of the 4 wins, out of the 3 wins. I think this was the game where I'm like, okay, Jones absolutely contributed in this game and played a critical part in us winning in that part. I would say defense is 1, Jones is 2.
Oh, it's the drive again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Sal's going to weigh in on that.
Mm-hmm.
The offense right now has completely revolved around Barkley's usage, right? Saquon Barkley is on pace for close to 400 touches this season. Okay, like he's getting receptions, even on that, on that drive. There was a play to Barkley. Barkley came back in, and he did get the ball off to him coming
On
across
a drag route, yeah, correct.
on a drag route, he turned it into a big play. So you are seeing those types of things, but Jones did the necessary things that he needed to do on that drive when Barkley went out. He made the right reads, he made the right decisions, and he led the team down the field. And that drive was on his shoulders, which is why I continue to say it was the best drive of his career. Now the question's going to be, how does he follow up this week?
Yep.
Right? And the reason I say that is that expectations now are going to be raised for his performance level. Right? So I think a lot of us are going to have a little bit higher expectation this week.
I agree with that.
And you repeat that, and now you're having Wan'Dell's likely going to play this week.
Right.
Right? So you're going to have Robinson's going to play. Barkley's still going to be on the field. He's going to play. So you're going to get a little bit more help this week, right? Going into this game. Can you now continue to build upon that? And, as you're getting this additional help on the field, are you going to take advantage of it, or are we going to see a very similar type of situation? So that's yet to be seen, but that's the level of expectation is certainly going to increase.
Sal, let's get to you, brother. Just tell me real quick, man. How did you feel about this Green Bay game? And just remind people, what was your thoughts before the game even started?
I thought we were going to lose the game. I thought it was going to be close, though. I didn't think Green Bay was going to blow us out. I said that all week. I think the line was 7.5 or something like that in favor of Green Bay, and I thought, no way, this is like a 3-4 point game. And I didn't think that we were going to win it because, you're facing what should be a better quarterback, right, and a better roster. So this is what I would say about Jones in this game. I think in this game, he definitely passed the eye test, right? He did put the team on his back on a couple of key drives. He made big plays. He really did. I mean, I don't think there's any denying that. If you look at, again, I always use the eye test, and I want to confirm it with advanced stats and see if they add up. Am I just being skewed in this or not? And, the stat I always like to look at is EPA.
The EPA came through, huh?
So the Giants passing offense
Mm-hmm.
was had the number one EPA in the NFL this week going into Monday night.
That's
Better than
crazy.
Buffalo, better than every other team. Their passing offense contributed more than just about anything else in this week, and you do have to give Jones credit for that.
Wow.
In a nutshell, in this game, he played a
Right.
very good game. He had a really good game. He put the team on his back for the key drives. That 91-yard drive, I think without doubt, is the best drive of his career. I would argue this was the biggest win of his career because I think that being down 17-3, against what should be a far superior opponent, going into halftime down 2010, and to be able to basically continue to put up points because he did, right? They put up 24 points after getting down 2 touchdowns. And then obviously the defense. I mean, Wink Martindale, you can't say enough about him. He put the clamps on the Packers. But
0 points scored in the second half for the Green Bay
absolutely,
Packers.
no offensive points
defense.
after halftime. Right, exactly. And I do think there is complementary football there, right? Like the Giants would have a big drive, they'd score, Packers would come out 3 and out, and you could tell that the Packers' confidence level was just dramatically dropping as the second half
Yes,
kept
I
going.
agree. You can see that on TV. It's crazy.
Right. And the Giants were flying, absolutely flying all over the field, right? Um, was Daniel Jones better? Yes. What made him better, I think, is a better question. And I don't think it's just that he was better. I think that having Darius Slayton on the field, stretching the field, opening up levels where he could actually maybe have a shot a little bit downfield on some plays, which he took,
Right.
it did help the offense. It helped open things up a little bit. And of course, I mean, Saquon Barkley for granted,
Right.
right? He does incredible things, superhuman things. This doesn't happen, like Mike said, without that Wildcat run. And it doesn't happen without the gigantic, I think it was a 40-yard gain on the pass.
Yep.
Now, the Wildcat run was a combination of Saquon
Kafka.
and what Mike Kafka schemed up. For those who don't know about it, and Mike mentioned it, it is an insane thing to watch. So they went into Wildcat with a jumbo formation up top. What they did was they had 7 men on the line. They had Andrew Thomas lined up as the jumbo tight end to the
Yep.
right of Evan Neal, who was playing offensive tackle.
Right.
They had Daniel Bellinger playing left tackle, and they had Tanner Hudson lined up as a strong side tight end on the outside shoulder of Andrew Thomas. So on the right side on this line, you had Hudson, Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, Mark Lewinsky, Feliciano snapping. I think Bredesen was the left guard, and you had Bellinger playing left tackle with David Sills lined up in a tight formation, wide receiver. And they, so all the strength is to the right side. And what do? They snap it to Saquon and they run to the right. I mean, to the left.
To the left.
I mean,
To
I
the
think
weak side.
they ran to the weak side, and to his credit, David Sills threw 3 ridiculously good blocks.
I saw that Nick Filato is his name. He broke that down. He showed it on a breakdown. Amazing
He
stuff,
blocked
by the
one guy
way.
twice.
Yeah.
He blocked the outside linebacker once, flipped over, took out the second level defender, and then saw the outside linebacker close and came back, hit him again, and that was the gap through which Saquon just saw it, just burst through, and he was gone. So
Right.
there were plays like that opened up the game. But in a nutshell, the short answer is Daniel Jones had a really great game. I think that's honest to say. I think where the conversation goes offline is when people say, there it is. That's the evidence that, he's here, he's arrived. And I always push back and say, you can't do this. Number one, I will try to be fair and say that I will come on week after week when Jones has a bad game or statistically has a bad game and say he had a bad game, and I think the team carried him.
Yeah.
But I don't think my criticism of him when he's bad holds water. If when he has a good game, I don't come out and say, hey, the guy had a good game.
Absolutely.
He did. He had a good game. The way I look at it is we've had 5 games, 4 wins, 1 loss. He's had 1 really good game, which was this past one. He's had 2 games where he was probably okay,
Yes.
okay, just like did the job, did game manager level quarterback.
Are you talking about? So this game is a good game, and then he has 2 previous games that are okay. That's what you're saying.
2 games where he didn't cost us the game, and he did decent game manager work. That's the Chicago game, and the other game was the Carolina game.
Okay, what do you think about him?
Yeah.
What do you think of him in the Dallas game though? Because I thought that
I'm
was
sorry,
a big-
Dallas game. Not I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Dallas and Chicago. He was okay.
Okay, I'm
His two
I'm
bad games.
100% agreeing
Yeah.
with you. I'm on the same level as you.
And his first two games are just downright terrible. Right?
I agree with you,
the
too.
Tennessee game and Carolina. So far, if you're keeping score, he's had one really good game, two really bad games, two very kind of average, mediocre games. This is not slander. This is just honest assessment of where he is.
He's not done enough. He hasn't done enough.
Yeah, that's 5. So we're about a third of the way through the season, and if you're asking me, gun to my head today, is this man on track to get a contract from the Giants? I think the clear answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
I think clearly, like, to get paid, you really need to put together a lot more than that. I would think like 13, 14 really good games, something along those lines. He's not on track for that. So I think both things can be true. You can say he had a good game, and he was a big part of the reason we won against Green Bay.
Right.
And he just hasn't done enough to this point to justify talking about contract. That's kind of where I stand on him.
And it's early in the season still right now. I mean, he could still put together more of these Green Bay games than more of, let's say, for example, the Titans game, or you know what I'm saying, like there's still opportunity for Jones to, sell himself to this front office. It's to some people it's almost gonna be impossible for him to sell. I think the top. Well, before I even get to that, real quick, just want to touch base on. I don't think that people, even though we understand this defense is now inside the top 10 in terms of points per game, to hold Aaron Rodgers to no points scored, I don't think I've personally seen that. Aaron Rodgers for a second half not have any touchdowns, any field goals.
Right.
How does that even happen? Like, what are
know,
we doing? I can't even break it down.
You know what it felt like? It felt like the second half of the 2011 division round playoff game, when they absolutely just put the clamps on Rodgers in that second half, and he just couldn't do anything. I mean, obviously, different game, different era, different stakes.
Right.
But he looked like that quarterback again. He looked like the guy who should be dominating, who was confused and scared in the backfield, and they just completely owned him. I think he's always struggled a little bit when he's had a lot of pressure. When you rattle him, he doesn't always respond well. You see this in the playoffs, right? The 49ers drive him crazy. And the Giants were all over him. And I think the keys to the game that we talked about going into the week played out, right, on defense. Two guys who had to be critical in stopping Rodgers, I thought, going in were interior rush from Dexter Lawrence, right? I thought he had a good matchup, and he was just an absolute monster. He was driving them crazy. And because Rodgers is a guy who releases the ball quickly, that time to throw of 2.48 seconds, the only guy on our defensive line or in our edge room that could get there that quickly was Kayvon Thibodeau, and he was absolutely just dominating throughout the game for those who watch. And for people who rate outside linebackers and edge rushers on sacks, it's probably the worst way to analyze how well they're doing. Kayvon Thibodeau won something like 25% of his pass rushes. He had pressures on like 25% of his pass rushes, which is really getting into like elite territory. He was being doubled. He was being held. He was causing problems. He was opening up rush lanes for blitzers. You saw Belton rush on the. You saw Dexter Lawrence. I mean, the one of the key the sacks of the game was when
Tibbs had a lot to do with that, where Tibbs blew right
third
by the
down
right tackle, and Aaron Rodgers didn't even look down the field. He saw Kayvon Thibodeau just go right through his tackle, and he was like, "No, let me get out of here," and he ran right into Dexter Lawrence.
Right, that was the third down on the left tackle. So that was that third down play where they were in field goal range, and they had Thibodeau lined up to the outside shoulder of Dex, who was in 3-tech, I think, in that particular play. And Thibodeau, so they tried to double team Dexter Lawrence, and Thibodeau got so quick to the outside shoulder of the tackle that he had to peel off quickly. And as soon as he peeled off for a split second, Lawrence was gone, and he was in Rodgers' face, and that took them out of field goal range. That cost them points. So that's a deadly combination, right?
And Ivan pointed out something really big. That was we held the ball for 8 minutes in that third quarter. We left Rodgers to one possession in the third quarter. And then he had two possession, I think it was, in the fourth quarter.
10 minutes. He had 10 minutes of actual ball time in the second half.
And that was just like what Mike was talking about. The thing was, you could also tell the momentum was not only on the offensive side, but also on the defensive side too. I can't remember the last time that I went to a third or fourth quarter and I was like, yo, our defense is fresh as hell. They haven't been on the field. Yeah, it definitely wasn't last year. Definitely wasn't the year before that. So it's crazy to see that. And
this game, Antonio, what this game did was reinforce a position that I've had for years, which is if you're able to generate a pass rush,
mm-hmm.
who you necessarily have playing corner doesn't matter. Right. And what I mean by that is there's been this adage over the last several years where there's been this new school philosophy of thinking where you want to get these great cover corners and you want the corners to cover for so well.
So it could be coverage sacks instead of pressure sacks.
Exactly, instead of pressure sacks. Where I am of the belief, and I've been of this belief forever, that when you're able to get after the quarterback, speed up the quarterback's clock, your corners are less likely to get exposed because they don't need to cover as long. And it gives them the ability to keep things in front of them, which avoids the big play because it's very difficult for a quarterback to get the ball over the top when he's falling on his back or trying to rush to get rid of the ball because he's not going to be looking to take shots deep. They're going to be looking to take shots underneath that are going to have a higher completion percentage possibility for him, and that's right in his face. Right. So he's not going to see the deep because he's focused on what's in front of him that he can see immediately to get the ball out to avoid the pressure. So with the Giants increasing the pressure with Thibodeau, with Lawrence, even Zimenez, right? And Zimenez has played great in wing system so far, right? When you get Leo back,
I mean, who's played bad in this system? That's my question to y'all. Like, who y'all right now be like, oh yeah, we need to upgrade in this position right now? Like immediately.
Linebacker still needs upgrading, and I know you're happy to hear that. The linebacker still needs upgrading.
Yeah, right? But even Crowder looked better now playing on the like. I know both of you guys have mentioned this. He's looked better playing as the weak side linebacker as opposed to not playing. Jalen Smith now taking over as the number one guy. So it's crazy to me how like what Wink is selling to these guys? Because, they're playing above and beyond their own freaking talent.
I mean, just look at the guys that were playing corner after Adoree got hurt, everything else.
Justin Lane, Nate McLeod. Right. Like, who are these guys? These guys are waiver pickups, dude.
And how are the Giants doing this? Well, they're doing it because they were consistently creating pressure.
That's interesting. Into the quarterback. I'm in the opposite point of. I actually do believe that. So I'm in the point of view of you also do need the coverage. I'm not far. I'm not into. So I think that time to throw is important. And when you get these quarterbacks that have really low time to throw, I don't really care about your pass rushers. I'm like, if you don't have the corners that are gonna stay with these guys, or at least give your pass rushers a little bit more seconds to hold to that quarterback, hold on to the ball, you're done. I think the one thing that's different from this game as opposed to the Dallas game, I think Wink didn't really study for Dallas like he studied for Aaron Rodgers. Cause in Dallas game, he tried to blitz that kid to another state, bro. And that kid was just letting go of the ball, hitting all his dump offs. Meanwhile, I think Rodgers was hitting his dump offs too, and he was hitting his quick plays, but I didn't see the blitz, the heavy blitzing that we normally see from Wink. Now, I heard in the fourth quarter, he went blitz crazy in the fourth quarter. But at least in the beginning of the game, I was tweeting. I was like, I don't see the blitz from Wink right now. Something has to... I think it's a little combination of both. I think we played coverage, but we also have a good front four.
I think we blitzed like over 40% of the time, actually.
The whole game?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Much more in the second half. But if you remember in the first half, Rodgers was eating them alive.
Supposedly, we blitz 60% of the time in the fourth quarter.
Right. So I think in the first half, we were playing off man a lot more. Mm-hmm. And Rodgers was just cooking us on those flat, on those routes.
On the shorts, yep.
All to the flat. Like if you look at his spray chart, all his completions were like either at the line of scrimmage or just around the line of scrimmage. They were throws to the flat, eating up 5-6 yards. I mean, it was death by 1,000 like paper cuts. That's what he was doing to us. I think what changed in the second half was we started playing a little bit more press. We took those away, and then the pressure started coming, and he couldn't get those quick throws off, and it was you're still going to get cooked. You're going to get killed by Rodgers if your front seven, if your at least your defensive line is not getting across. But they were getting there, right? I mean, I think that's the key. The Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau specifically, those two were wreaking havoc at the line of scrimmage in the second half, especially. And then I fully agree with Mike. If your guys up front are getting pressure, as long as you have good athletes who can just run with guys, they don't have to be perfect in coverage, right?
Got it.
I'm gonna throw a stat out here right now.
Go ahead,
I'm
Mike.
gonna throw a stat out here right now. I'm looking. I just pulled it up because I wanted to see these the stats as of yesterday. So it has next gen stats for team pass rush win rate, right? So the Giants right now rank 16th in the league for pass rush win rate at 44%.
Okay.
So they're right in the middle of the pack of the league in terms of pass rush win rate.
Right.
What's concerning, I'm going to suspect that we're going to start seeing more of this.
Okay.
Is that the Giants run stop win rate
Right.
is 27% and ranked dead last in the league.
Right.
So I would suspect that with games we've got coming up, right, Baltimore this week, right, then Jacksonville, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you're gonna start seeing teams say, okay,
Let's run it.
you guys aren't great at stopping the run. We're just gonna run the ball right at you, and we're gonna stay committed to it and see if you could do it.
Do you think that Leonard fixes that, or even with Leonard back, that's still a problem the Giants have?
How many games has Leonard missed?
2 games. 3 games he's missed.
He missed the last 2, and he missed Dallas too. He missed all 3.
He missed Dallas, correct. He missed Dallas,
Right.
He missed the Bears, he missed this one. So he's missed 3, yep.
Yeah, so he's missed 3, and I'm sure he
And
will
all those 3
significantly-
games, we've been pretty much cooked in terms of average per carry on all those 3 games.
Where I've seen us though get attacked the most, and it's just what I've watched, and I haven't gone back to film. We're getting killed on tosses. Outside runs are gashing us like no tomorrow. Like these teams are running old school toss sweeps.
Right.
Dallas ran a ton of them, and they were able to dominate.
Dallas
using
did
it.
whatever the hell they wanted. They ran it inside, they ran it outside. Everything worked for them, to be honest. They dominated both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and you saw what Green Bay did. Green Bay was getting good runs with Aaron Jones to the outside.
Aaron Rodgers could have just hand the ball off and won that game easily if he would have just handed the ball off according to averages, because they were averaging over 4 yards per carry, each one of the running backs. I think one of them was averaging 5.
Yeah, what that is, it comes down to again is bad coaching.
Bad coaching. I mean, who the hell could coach Aaron Rodgers? Like that's your father. You're not his father. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not even. What I mean by that, though, and then Sal, I'll let you go. What I mean by that is that if you're a coach, seeing that you're averaging 4.5 yards per carry, right?
But how are you gonna tell Aaron Rodgers don't throw? Keep running the ball, Rodgers.
Very simply, because the idea at the end of the day is to win the game.
Right.
Right. It's to win the game.
I agree with you.
And quite
I
honestly,
just also see that like, yo, it's Aaron Rodgers, man. You ain't gonna tell me to do anything. I kind of see his ego getting in the way.
No, I'm with Mike. I think Aaron Rodgers does what he needs to win the game, and this is LaFleur saying pass the ball. I don't think.
Oh, you think so?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's calling the plays. I mean, I don't think Rodgers.
So what I heard was Aaron Rodgers gets a pass run option every play. So he gets the formation, and he could choose to make it into a run. That's that play or a pass.
And that may be true, but at
Right.
some point when you're getting absolutely decimated, and you're doing nothing on offense, and you have a chance to run to win the game, as a head coach, you got to sit down and say, we got to reestablish the run, and they just didn't. They abandoned it. I think that
it does fall on the coach, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I think picking back on Mike's point, we're winning a lot of games because we're simply making better adjustments in our coaching staff than the other teams, and we're beating them. We're out coaching them, right? Like we're in every one of these wins, we are on almost all of them. We're trailing at halftime, right? Except for Chicago, right?
I think so.
We're trailing at halftime, and we come out and we're absolutely smoking teams in the second half. Why is that? Right? What's so different? Is it because Daniel Jones is a better quarterback? No.
Yeah.
Is it because Saquon is suddenly more talented than he was in the first half? No.
Right.
It's because our coaches are looking at the game, making adjustments, and they're doing things to do what is necessary to get yardage, score points, and win the game that other teams are not doing. They're anticipating and playing a chess match that the other coaches are not matching up to. We really are watching how good coaching can win games, and that's what
Yep.
we're witnessing, which should be an exciting thing for Giants fans, right? We have coaches who, with a roster that they didn't create, with no cap space and limited personnel and a ton of injuries, are figuring out ways to beat some pretty good teams with adjustments in the second half, and that's I think the big difference. And leading into like future games, to me, this is why I really feel like is the bottom going to fall off from this
Is
team
this
at this point?
sustainable? Is what I was thinking right now.
It is if they stay healthy. I think
And they're
the
hurt
problem.
right now, right? Would you say the team is
Well,
hurt right now? Or would you think
yeah,
the team is relatively healthy?
but if we're look, we rely on
Are you
on a
just saying
few
like
really key
Saquon needs
guys.
to stay healthy?
Andrew Thomas,
Andrew Thomas. You're saying
right?
the elite guys need to stay healthy.
Well, if you lose Dexter Lawrence, what happens to the defense? If you lose Andrew Thomas, what happens to the offense? Or if you lose Saquon, right? So we're a roster built on fumes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a man's game. It's a physical game. Guys get hurt. If a key guy goes down, the wheels fall off. I really think
But
that
that's any team and every team too. If Josh Allen gets hurt, he's done. They're done. The Bills are done.
Well, Josh Allen, yeah, but if they lose their running back, that won't be the case, right? If they
You
lose
think?
their
Okay.
tackle, that won't be
What
the
about
case.
if they lose their wide receiver? Who's their game name? The guy.
Doesn't matter.
You
To
think that? You
Davis?
think that? No, not Davis. They're number one.
Diggs?
Diggs. You think they're still running? They're running a
They're
flawless
still
engine.
maybe not flawless, but they're still beating the vast majority of teams they face.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think good rosters are built with the kind of depth where you can sustain injuries and keep winning.
Right. I mean,
I think
Dallas
the
is doing a
Giants
good job of winning without their quarterback.
the Giants are riding the edge of a wave of a hurricane.
Yeah.
Okay, like we are at the tip of that hurricane wave, and we're riding it and holding on so far. But I mean, I don't want to be like Mr. Negative, but a couple of key injuries, we don't have the roster depth to survive that.
I agree.
So is it sustainable? It's sustainable if we stay healthy.
Okay.
But if you have a couple, like if you lose Saquon, if he gets hurt and you miss it, you're going to lose every one of the games he's gone.
Right. Michael, do
That's
you agree
just
with that?
that's it.
Is you feel as long as this roster is healthy, this is
Yeah,
sustainable?
I don't think what they're doing right now is sustainable. I think the only way that it's going to continue is when I look across the landscape of the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
The NFC just isn't a very good conference right now. Okay, you're not looking at the NFC and saying, "Wow, these teams are so dynamic." Like there's no Chiefs in the NFC, there's no Bills in the NFC.
There's no
You're not dealing. There's no rate. Like and I would put Baltimore well below both of those teams. But like you're not seeing that in the NFC. Like we could talk about the Eagles being 5-0, and rightfully so. They earned their right to be 5-0.
But it's because of the schedule they're playing too. Exactly.
But but you don't look. I don't look at the Eagles and go, "Wow, they're this powerhouse that's so dynamic that how could anybody keep pace with them?" Right? Like you don't see that right
The
now.
Eagles
So,
don't put fear on nobody.
yeah, and I think that it's possible that you could end up in a situation where you have a light schedule, you have a down year for the conference, it's wide open. You've got 7 teams that are going to make the playoffs, right? Like it's not with the playoff expansion. Like there's just a lot of things that could go. But to Sal's point, it is possible that you could have an injury here or there, and it happens to a key guy or
And
something.
derails the season.
Makes an adjustment, and it can derail the season. I mean,
Right.
look, it's just as easily as we won a game against Carolina that where we won the turnover battle, and Daniel Jones put a touchdown pass gifted in the Panthers cornerback's right in his breadbasket, and the guy couldn't catch the ball, right? It's very possible that you could play a team where they do catch that ball, right? And it shifts the whole dynamic of the game. Like there's a reason why these games, for the majority of games in the NFL, are 1-score games. These are not games that you're seeing teams.
Yeah, this is the biggest
wars
parity
going
in the
on.
whole in any NFL season to start off the season. This has been like the closest in terms of it's only been like 7 points or whatever supposedly.
Yeah, it's definitely that. It's a down year for scoring across the league right now thus far. What I will tell you, what I focus this year on more than anything else is how are the players that the general manager drafted
Developing
performing
right,
so far this season, right?
right,
And right now, without Wandell being on the field
right.
as a threat, you've got 4 players in that draft that are legit ballers: Bellinger, Belton, Neal, and Thibodeau.
Yo, you're
You've got
100% right
four
about
guys.
that.
You got 4 guys that you have right now that you could look at definitively
Right.
and say, you know what, these guys you could see the talent. Belton stepped on the field his first game, and I said it right after the game. I said, can we talk about how good Belton looked today? Because Belton looked outstanding, and he's gotten better every single week, right? And he's looking better every week. And I said before the season, I thought Daniel Bellinger was going to have a big impact role on this team moving forward. He fits. He blocks well. He's athletic enough. He's got soft hands.
Yeah.
He's a good, solid football player. And that's what the Giants
I
want to
see them use Bellinger more in the red zone too. When we get to the red zone, I just want to see him evolve more. Yeah, I saw him in the end of the run. Obviously, he did score the touchdown, but I do want to see him evolve in some pass opportunities there because I didn't even realize the guy he's Gronk type of weight and height. I didn't even realize that this guy's huge.
You looked at his RAS score. His RAS score was pretty.
So that's what everybody's telling me, that his RAS score is out of this
pretty,
world.
His RAS score was still pretty significant. And what's starting to happen is because teams are taking a more analytical approach to the draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's reaching to take a tight end because they're all doing the same thing, right? So the tight ends aren't going until rounds 3, 4, 5, right? Those tight ends are going later and later and later. Outside of Kyle Pitts, who was just like the unicorn, right?
Right.
Was the highest tight end ever. But for the most part, most of the teams subscribe to the same type of roster building from an analytical standpoint. So, in the first round, everybody's clamoring to get a corner, an edge rusher, a wide receiver, quarterback. Like, that's what's going to go.
That's the league right
the
now.
first round. So you're in a position where it's like, okay, well, if I'm not going to get the guy that I want here, it's better for me analytically to trade back, which you saw our general manager do twice, which resulted in McFadden, Belton, and Robinson. Right? As a result of those trade downs, right? So what you're seeing is a very smart approach to say, okay, if I want one of these guys on my board and they're gone, I'm not going to reach for the next guy on my board. Let me trade down. Because the likelihood is that, the guys that are moving up are not going to target that next tier of guys that I have because of where I have them ranked. So what you're seeing right now is a general manager that looks like he did a good job on his first draft class. And I'm excited to see where that goes into next offseason when we get there.
Absolutely. Real quick, just want to get some quick comments on the chat. And I want to talk about this real quick. But Ivan said that show me the defense that can't get to the quarterback, and I'll show you a defense that can't cover. And that's in relation kind of to we need a cornerback first. We need to have a team that can rush first before anything. And then Ivan said also it's going to come down to teams saying we're not going to let Barkley beat us. We're going to force Jones to throw it. Now, the only thing I'll say that with Ivan is we have seen teams pretty much try to do the same theory, which is we don't care about Jones. We're going to let Saquon not beat us. And somehow, some way, our coaching staff still figures out a way how to get, with the exception of Dallas, who is right now currently having a top 3 defense. They're having a monster season over there on the defensive side of the field. With the exception of Dallas, we've still figured out everybody else to run, and everybody's playing us pretty much the same, bringing people in the box. I think Green Bay was the one team that I saw that they had a lot of zone coverage against us, and that was funny because they made a ton of mistakes in terms of coverages against us in that game. And I went back and I saw the tape, and I was like, oh man, those guys their linebackers were lost most of the time. against that game. Let me touch base on and it's kind of gonna touch into the future and hypotheticals and stuff like that. Stan said Anthony Richardson's stock is falling and the Giants are winning, but I'm still in position to get him if he declares. This is starting to feel like 2017 Bills, Joe, showing that if Anthony Richardson declares. All right, so first and foremost, this team, in terms of, is there a chance that this team is a team that's actually like, how do you guys feel about first of all, this team making playoffs, this team like putting themselves in a really bad position in terms of the draft stock? How do you guys feel about that?
Let me take that first. So playoff statistically, teams that start 4-1 have like a 60% chance or something like that of making the playoffs.
Is that with the new format or with an old format?
With the new format, I believe.
Okay, because there's even an easier chance to make the playoffs now than it was in before.
It's 77%, Sal. 77%.
With the new format, yeah.
Okay.
It'll no, of course, every win or loss like obviously dramatically affects it when there's
Correct.
a lot of season left, right? So like,
correct. You can still go 7 in a row and lose.
I think you're 70%, and I think it drops to like 60% if you lose this week, and it goes up to like 80% or something if you win. So but you know the number fluctuates. There's still so much variability and so much season left that I think it's a little early to make that proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this.
So still, I mean, yeah, we know.
Well,
yeah,
you know, with our friends, with some of our friends on Twitter the other night, I was on a space with them, and we were just kind of running through the schedule. And we're saying, where is this team likely to land, right? Because we're getting into the season, we can start to see like what teams are good, who's healthy, who's not. So we went through it, and with the 3 games left before the bye, we have the Ravens, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say, for argument's sake, the Giants go 1-2 in those games, right? Just for argument's sake.
Okay.
And you go 5-3 into the bye, which is, I mean, if you told most Giant fans you're going to the bye 5-3, we would say you're crazy.
So
right. And then you look at the remaining schedule, and some of them are division games. A lot of them are division games. Some of them are teams that are not as good as people thought they would be, and you start counting up the wins, and this could easily be an 8-9 win team from where it is right now. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably a very likely place where we land, unless injuries happen or the wheels fall off. I think we're kind of on trajectory for that 8-9 win territory. Mm-hmm. Could we get to double digits in the playoffs? Sure. I think it's possible. I think you'd have to see the team get better than it is today for that to happen, because and Mike knows this, right? As you get into the months of November and December where teams are fighting for playoff football, it changes, right? The caliber of play starts to improve, and your game has to go up with it. So we'll see, right? It's possible, but I think if you're doing like the bell curve of where this team is likely to land right now, I would peg it somewhere between 8 and 9 wins. I do think that's a likely landing spot at this point. Does that mean they're in the playoffs? Maybe, maybe not. So that's where what I feel about them. Now, regarding Stan's point, which I think is a valid one, right? Which is, and I think this goes back to what I'm forgetting her name. Was it Kim Elliott on ESPN today?
Kimberly something. Yeah.
Who said that she thought the Giants should be losing. What are they doing? They should be losing. And I know that's a little bit out of context. She said a lot more than that. But basically her point was that, well, teams should be rebuilding and they should not be winning right now, right? They should be trying to get draft stock. Let me come out and say fully that I'm 100% against this idea for a lot of reasons. Number one, it is not a palatable idea in reality. The reason it isn't is because you have 53 men on that roster who are professionals, who are paid to do this for a living. They are fighting to get their next contract. So you're not going to convince 53 guys to not play well and not fight their hardest to try to earn the next contract, to win games, right? So that and this is the same is true for the coaches, for the GMs. You can't go out there and say we're not going to try. Now I know Ivan has mentioned that teams do this by just trading away or getting rid of their best players, trading them for draft assets, things like that. That's definitely one way teams do it. The problem is that when you're 4-1, are you going to start trading away your best assets? I mean, what message is that sending to your locker room? What message is it sending to your front office, to your fans, to everybody?
Right.
We're dumping. We're too afraid of winning. We're dumping. That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Right. And if you look historically at the teams that have actually built good rosters and figured out ways to win, it has nothing to do with tanking. Exactly. Bad teams lose because they're bad teams, right? Bad teams that have bad executives, bad front offices, bad coaches, they draft poorly and they continue to suck. And they stop sucking when they hire good GMs and good coaches They draft well, they develop well, right? So the same draft class that we're looking at, and I agree with Mike. This looks like a good. We already have 4 guys that look like legit starters, and probably are going to have 5, maybe 6 by the time this is all said and done. Which is, if you think about it, that's an insane haul for a draft class.
There's going to be that unknown quarterback to come out of the nowhere too.
Right. No, but just I'm talking about this past draft class, right?
Okay. You're talking about our draft class.
How do we know those 4 players are going to be any good with a different coaching staff? How do we know they're not going to all suck, right? This is where I don't buy into this idea.
I mentioned that.
Yeah. So I think the culture of winning is far more important. I think when you build the machinery of winning, and I've talked on Spaces about like businesses. I run a business. You know, the culture of success is a very important thing. Values are important.
Right.
Culture is important because when everybody is used to winning and succeeding, it makes it easier to plug in new people into that machinery and they find success much easier.
Exactly.
Right? It makes future success easier. And so I think that's far more important than draft position. The last point I'll make on this, and this is to Stan's point, good organizations find their quarterback and they go get them.
And no matter where you are.
They're not afraid to make the move to go get the quarterback. They're not afraid of draft picks and what they've got to give up. They find them. Anthony Richardson's stock is probably not going to be as high as a lot of people thought, right? But he's probably still going to get a first-round grade, and that young man should declare. And if he's declaring, the New York Giants are sitting in the teens, they should go get him. I'll say it right now. And I don't care what other people think. If we are sitting in the teens and Anthony Richardson is there, this boy was made in a lab for our coaches, okay? He was made in a lab for this organization. He is the perfect developmental quarterback prospect for this organization. I would 100% go get him. I don't care if it takes draft picks to go get him. You go get that kid. And you develop him in a good culture of winning, right? That's where you want that young, that projectable young prospect of quarterback. Where do you want to put him? You want to put him in a losing organization? You want to stick him in Jacksonville?
Right.
Or Detroit? No, you want to bring him to the New York Giants that just won 9 games with Brian Dable, you know, under this leadership to develop into the star that he's supposed to be. So that's my answer to what Stan's saying. And I think we can win. I'm not trying to do anything. I think they can do what they've got to do to win or lose or whatever, build that culture. And then I think the same people who are good enough to find victories when they shouldn't be able to are the same people who are smart enough to find their quarterback and develop it. And that's my view on it.
Mike, go ahead and read what Kimberly A. Martin said. She said, some of y'all hella emotional at this app because of some dude posted a 20-second clip of the Giants come on get up. But she said, but there's a business side that can't be ignored. She said, football is better when New York Giants are playing good. I want to see Saquon get paid. Dabo is coach of the year so far. And I said on air all day that the New York Giants are a playoff team. But she said, but there's a business side of football that can't be ignored as well. I've responded to a point Greeny made earlier in the combo. When you have roster holes plus a ton of question marks, sometimes there's a drawback to winning from a big picture and a draft type and a team construction point of view. Example is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cool, they eked into the playoffs, but they drafted at 20, and now they're having major holes that haven't been addressed in their team. So how do you feel about that? And how do you feel about this team like winning in the you know, if we do get 8, 9, 10 wins this season?
NFL as a league is made for teams to rebound relatively quickly if it's done right. They are not meant to stay in the basement for an extended period of time. Okay? The NFL is designed specifically for mediocrity. Okay? It's what it is, right? The reason why it is how it is that they want every fan base in all 32 teams feeling like that as the season progresses, they have an opportunity to make the playoffs. They have an opportunity to compete for a championship, right? Now, there's some caveats to that because there's going to be a handful of teams that are going to be really bad, right? But if done right, they shouldn't be really bad for more than 2 to 3 years, and they should be able to utilize their draft picks where they're picking specifically, which is why there's not a lottery in the NFL. The worst teams get the best picks, right? Because it's designed to get those teams back into a competitive state as quickly as possible so that it continues the parity throughout the league, right? What it's about. Now, to her point, what she mentioned this morning is when your team has limitations, worst thing you could be is mediocre.
I think kind of a lot of people felt like that too.
And not wrong, right? That opinion is not wrong.
Right.
Wrong is thinking that the team should intentionally lose on purpose, which is what some people took that to be. Like, oh, they should be losing these games on purpose because they've got other things to do. That's not what she was saying.
That's not what she was saying at all.
What she was saying was that when you're a team that's got issues,
You just make it
And
that
I
much
don't
harder
think-
on yourself. Yeah.
I don't think any Giant fan can sit here objectively
Saying
and
that
say
we
that
don't
this
have
team
issues.
doesn't have issues.
Mhm.
It can't sit here and say that the salary cap next year, right? And how they're going to build the team. Now, most fans are going to say, I don't give a shit about next year. I only care about right now.
Mhm.
That's fine. You could do that as a fan. As a general manager,
You gotta
your
think
job
about 3
is
steps
to
ahead.
get the team in a position to be competitive for an extended period of time.
Right.
It's not about just this one season.
Right.
And that's how we got 2016 when Jerry Reese spent all the money in free agency
And-
because they were trying to patchwork it,
And get 'em
and they
into-
went all in for that one season,
Yep.
and they made the playoffs, and it was awesome. And what happened? The next year, the wheels fell off,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and everybody's going, "Oh man, what did they do? They hired Gettleman, and here we are 4 years later, still digging out of the hole, right?" So for one season,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody now is like, "Oh, it was great, we made the play," but you've now had 5 consecutive years of bad football. From that point forward, right? You had 4 years of just bad football, bad management, bad football, right? Bad decisions. So, and you were still bad enough, and you still couldn't fix your team. So that makes it even worse, which shows complete gross incompetence that you were bad, had multiple high draft picks, and 4 years later, you're still in a position where you're digging out of a hole. That's the last place you want to be, right? So the way I view that is I don't think anybody should intentionally be trying to lose games, okay, at all. And I agree with Sal. Nobody should be intentionally trying to lose games. These guys are professional football players. They're going to go out there. It's a physical game. They're not going to try to lose games on purpose so that they can put their bodies at risk and put their careers at risk because, the GM is going to cut them at the end of the year and say, fuck you and move on with their life, right? Like, they're not going to do that, okay? So, but the worst thing that you can be is what the Steelers were right now, right? But the Steelers, in their opinion, quarterback of the future. They got him last year, right? So the Steelers bottoming out this year,
They're gonna
benefit for them
They're gonna bounce right back up.
long term.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, and the main reason for that is how many teams, and I'll ask you guys, and you can answer quickly, how many teams are going to be looking for a quarterback in the top 5 of the draft?
Yeah. You're gonna see a lot.
Okay. The Pittsburgh Steelers are likely going to have a top 5 pick. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be in position.
They're gonna be able
where
to.
they've
They're gonna be
already
able to stack up.
They already drafted their guy. They're having a bad year. They're going to sit there and go, okay, even Pickett. You have an opportunity to either draft Will Anderson and get a major impact pass rush to pair with T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith and just turn this thing into a monster. Or they could sit there and say, you know what? This team wants to come up for a quarterback. I'm going to pilfer you right now and get multiple ones, and I'm going to rebuild my team over the next 2 to 3 years by putting a young core together and restarting the clock because I have that young quarterback that I believe in, that I already drafted, and we're going to move on, right?
Yeah. Or they could get a quarterback themselves if they don't like what they see out of their current guy.
Or they could do that too. But the point is that because they are bad this year, and that's what she was trying to bring up.
Yeah.
They're not intentionally trying to be bad,
Right.
but because they are bad, it puts them in a better position now. It's like taking your medicine. You're ripping off the Band-Aid, you're having your bad year,
Right.
and then it allows you to kind of breathe and move forward. The Giants have tried to avoid ripping off the Band-Aid year after year after year, and Shane came in basically this year and said, we're ripping off the Band-Aid. It is what it is. And the coaching staff has maximized these players' abilities and have been able to put the team in a position to win games, and they've won the games. Now, before the season, I said I thought the Giants would win 6 games. I thought that their ceiling would be 7, right? Not going to change that until they get to 7 games. And when they win the 8th game, then I have no problem saying I'm wrong.
Right.
But there's no way that anybody right now, even at 4-1,
You can't
could be getting
guarantee you
themselves in a
that 7.
position to say
Yeah.
it's fait accompli, that they're going to go out now and they're going to run the table and they're going to win all these games, because there's no way to know that yet.
So
No way to know.
And real quick, quick shout out to Jay who's in the chat. Quick shout out to Big Dash. Check out his page at Big Dash Knows. Shout out to Trey who's in the chat right now. Ivan said, just wait until they extend the playoff to 8 teams. And then he said, this is crazy if this happens. Wait until the Steelers go ahead and be our trade partners in the draft this year. So they're gonna swap that 5th round pick or whatever. I mean, that first overall pick with us, and we're gonna be able to get our quarterback, and we just give him the farm for it. I'll be more than happy for that if that happens. I'll say this. Okay, do you guys think that this team, because the momentum is with this team and it's crazy strong, have this team found their identity on both sides of the ball? Has this team like, okay, we know what we are on defense, we know what we're good at, we know what we're bad at, and we could keep this momentum of being a top 10 defense, and maybe on offense too, like, hey, yo, we know that we're going to be a team that's going to be heavy on the 2 tight end formations, maybe even 3 tight end formations. They've played it over 40%. It's gone up. Both last 2 games, it's gone up the amount of 2 tight end sets and heavy packages they played. So is this, I'll say this, is this because of injury, or is this what we're going to see the Giants be for the rest of the season, in your opinion?
I think that our identity is that we have coaches who know how to squeeze every last drop of production out of their players. That's our identity.
So it's not a formation. It's not, a proper set. You think that's going to be fluid all year long?
If your wide receiver room, right? Like, even before injuries, Kenny Golladay wasn't doing anything. Darius Toney doesn't exist.
Right.
until he does exist. I mean, I'm not one of the guys who piles on him. Like, if a dude's hurt, he's hurt.
I can't wait till he comes back. That's how I feel.
But he's not on the field, right?
Right.
And Wendell Robinson hasn't played until hopefully he plays this week.
Right.
Your room has been Richie James, David Sills, and it was Shep until he got hurt, and now it's Darius Slayton, right?
Right.
That's your wide receiver room. Is that going to win you games, or
can't
are you
go
going to
11 personnel with that?
Right. You're going to say, you know what? I've got Daniel Bellinger, who looks like he can make some plays. He can block well.
Mm-hmm.
He can be a receiving threat. He can be a threat in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Tanner Hudson, who's been a nice surprise as a receiving tight end, and he's been a steadily underrated good player. I'm going to get them on the field, and at the end of the day, you're going to revolve the offense around the one superstar that you have, right? And that's Saquon Barkley, who's playing his best year. I think even better than his rookie season. He looks better than I've ever seen him. So they're basically just designing an offense around what they've got to win, right? That's what they're doing. They also know that Daniel Jones, one of the areas he struggles is when he gets pressure, he really struggles, right? And he doesn't release the ball fast enough. So what are they doing? They're giving him 7 blockers, right? Which is unheard of in this era. Like, in this era, you don't see teams have 7 guys up there, but they're like, screw it. Give him a pocket. Get 7 guys up there. Whatever it takes, give him a pocket. And if you give him 3.5 seconds, maybe he will find Darius Slayton on a crossing route 15 yards down the field. And he did it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Is that our original question? Is that sustainable long term in the NFL? No. But right now, it's working, right? So they're doing what they've got to do with the personnel they have to win. That is our identity. Our identity is we have amazing coaches who squeeze every last drop of production out of our players. And on the defensive side of things, Wink Martindale, and I got into it with some Ravens fans about this, because all summer, and you remember this, Tony, and Mike, you probably do too, when we had these spaces with them, they could not wait to talk smack about Wink Martindale. All that man does is blitz.
Zero coverage.
Zero coverage. He doesn't adapt. It was complete bullshit.
It was a bad call. Bullshit. Bad call on that part.
Wink Martindale adjusts drive to drive, play to play. He plays situational football. Yeah, he obviously believes heavily in bringing pressure.
He loves blitz for sure, but it's so much complicated than that.
He's got Mike's philosophy, which, by the way, is my philosophy, because the best pressure you're going to get on a quarterback is not playing the Patrick Graham style of like rope-a-dope. It's going to be get in the guy's face and chase him around, right? And get him off balance. So he believes in that, but he adapts to his opponent, and they do what they have to. So why were Justin Lane and Nick McLeod able to look good? Because Wink Martindale designed a defense.
Philosophy doesn't change, even when who's there.
He took pressure off them. He said, these guys are my reserves to the reserves. I can't leave them out there by themselves, so I'm going to lean on Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence to win this game for me. So that's our identity. Our coaches will do whatever it takes to win.
Mhm.
And that's where it goes back to the whole idea of like, should you not win? Should you? No, we have coaches who know how to win. They have a track record of knowing how to win and designing
100%.
game winning, game winning game plans. So I expect to see completely different game plans every single week, depending on who we play, who's healthy, and who's out there. But what I expect to see is continuously good football.
Mike, what about you?
Well, just to kind of piggy off what Sal just said, the other thing about that's funny is, Sal randomly he'll go, fuck them picks, right? Like that's Sal's thing,
That's
right?
the line.
Fuck them picks, like fuck them picks, right?
I'm on that wave too. I'm on that wave too.
Well, and here's the thing though, right? When you hear members of the fan base say, well, we still need to do so many things to build this roster,
And we do.
Even if we could take a quarterback, don't, like, just keep building the rest of the roster, right? And here's the thing that's funny about that, right? If our coaches are this good enough to maximize what this roster has now,
Imagine.
what would they do if they had upgrades at the quarterback position, right? And some people want to sit here and say, oh, the quarterback's fine. There's a difference between accepting fine, wanting greatness, right? They're two different things.
Oh, but Mike, they're saying that it's because we don't have an elite wide receiver here, bro. That's why Daniel Jones hasn't looked great, man. He could look like Josh Allen if we had a lead wide receiver, bro.
There's a difference, right? Some people in life are content with mediocrity. Some people are content with just getting by, right? They're good with that, right? As long as I just get a passing grade. If I get a C on the test, fine, right? Like I passed. It's okay, right? We're good. It's all right. No, it's fine. And as a fan base, they're sitting there and going, we're good with that. And I got to meet standards on my review. I'm fine, right? Like, no one's firing me. No, everything's good. But if somebody came along could do your job better than the way that you could do it, and that enhances the performance
of the company,
of your company, and in this case of your team, right? You can't say, well, I'm not drafting that because I'm just good with the guy to get by, right?
No, right.
You know who could have settled for the guy that got by? Kansas City, because they had Alex Smith, who was exactly a guy that got by, got to the playoffs, but he could just get by. And what did Kansas City say? They said, you know what? We're a playoff team. Alex Smith has been good. He's not good enough, and we need to do something, right? And they made the move, and they traded up to get their guy. They went from the 20s to pick 11, moved up to get their guy, and they sat him on the bench, and they developed him for a year, and then let him go, right? And who also did that? Buffalo.
Yep.
Buffalo did the same thing. They made the playoffs. They identified something that they felt was an upgrade that they could make for the betterment of the future of their team, and they went, yes, this was okay.
Tennessee is doing that too.
Good enough.
Tennessee is doing that too.
And I think that's part of the issue where the fan base continues to get split, and it happens in the chats and it happens in the spaces. It's not that Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback to ever suit up. He's not.
Right.
Okay? Like, and they take anything that you say, meaning all of a sudden, like, oh, you're the slander of him.
Critique is now slander. Like, even like facts is slander. Yeah, so I'm a victim of that.
I just look at it and say, you know what? Look, is he okay enough where the team could get by him right now? For where the team is right now, are they getting by? Right? Other people are going to look at it and say, well, if you get him this, and this, all of a sudden he's going to be the superstar. He's not. He's not. Right? And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But he's not going to be this elite guy, right? So if you're looking at that and you're saying, well, my standard, people could say to me, my standard is too high, because my standard is I want greatness. I want mediocrity. I want greatness, because right now, to me, there's no difference in what Daniel Jones is doing than what Cooper Rush is doing. And I don't think anybody on the Giants that's a Giants fan would look at Cooper Rush and go, "Yeah, Cooper Rush, he's the guy." Like, you gotta commit to Cooper Rush. Like, no one's saying that.
That's funny. I hope I haven't heard nobody slander about Cooper Rush like he sucks or anything like that neither. Yeah, because you can't be a Daniel Jones supporter and say Cooper Rush sucks.
There is a segment of the Dallas fan base that's clamoring for him to play, even when Dak is back, and they're completely insane.
Yeah.
But that is happening.
But it's what it is. So when you look at this and you going forward, the coach's job is to take whatever the GM has provided him, right? And the GM and the coach could talk about what they want, right, collectively, so that they're on the same page. But it is the coach's job to maximize whatever he has to win as many games as possible for the current season that he is in. It is the GM's job to look at it at the roster and say, where can I make upgrades where we could go from average to good, from good to great, and from great to exceptional.
Right.
How do I get there? Right? So if there's an opportunity for me to go from good to exceptional, I'm going to roll the dice on the exceptional rather than just settle for the good because I don't want to upset the status quo and things are just good enough. Right? And it's a performance-based league, and let's be realistic. If you're not winning a Super Bowl at some point, you ain't keeping your job. It's what it is. Shane could be here and Dable could be here for the next 5 years, but if they don't have a team in position that can legitimately compete to win a Super Bowl, not going to be here.
Yeah.
Just understand that those guys are not going to sit and say this is okay and it's good enough, because if good enough means that we're going to be a 9-win team, an 8-win team. Next year, we have a good year this year. The schedule gets harder next year. Injuries are different. The ball doesn't bounce the same way. All of a sudden, instead of 9 wins, you're at 5 wins. There's too much fluctuation.
And that possibly can happen. It's a big chance that can happen, actually, where we could.
Right. So there's too much fluctuation.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is, instead of doing this, for 1 year we're here, next year you're here, you're trying to just do this.
I got you.
Slow and steady march. And that's what you saw Buffalo do, just slow and steady march, right? And you're looking at Buffalo right now, and Buffalo is the cream of the crop. Right? They're well coached. The roster is all their own homegrown. The majority are homegrown guys. They made key trades to bring in the guys that they needed to bring in, right? And bringing in Diggs to help move to the next level, right? And they did those things because they were steadily progressing upward. Where what the Giants did when they brought in Kenny Golladay and they drafted Kadarius Toney, they went, we need receivers. Throw shit at it. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
They threw shit at it. That's what they've been doing. And that's where the encouragement comes with this coaching staff, the GM moving forward, is that these guys, you can clearly see, have a unison plan in place. And look, I'll be honest. Do I want Jones back next year? No, because I don't think he doesn't meet my criteria. But if the GM at the end of the year said, you know what, to franchise him for 1 year, they want to say, hey, do it again, because somehow they make the NFC Championship game this year because of the way things are, and they get that far, and they go, look, we're not going to give you a long-term deal, but I'll give you a 1-year franchise deal, and let's go out there and see how you can improve again, then that's what they decide to do. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But people now planting their flag and taking a victory lap like we're already there, they got to pump the brakes.
I think so. I think that what I said was that this season was going to go good. I think that regardless of Jones, I think the season is going to go good. He either can help the cause or be indifferent. It's still going to be good. But what I said was, at the end of the day, this is going to be like the 49ers type of season, where we're going to have a good season, but we're also going to look for a new quarterback. And I'm going to stick to that theory until proven otherwise. Before we wrap it up, guys, real quick, give me your thoughts on the Ravens, and which is coming up next week. Ravens is probably one, or if not the toughest schedule. I mean, the toughest team that we're going to see this year. You can make the argument for the Eagles. You can make the argument for the Cowboys again when we see them. But that's about it. There's no other team that's going to be better than the Ravens besides those two teams, if you want to make the argument. What do you guys see in the Ravens? Just give me your thoughts real quick. Sal, I'll start with you in terms of, is there a chance here that we got to beat the Ravens?
Oh yeah, I think there's a very good chance we're going to beat the Ravens. We're starting, Vegas line. Vegas has us as I think 5.5 point underdogs. at home. So they're basically saying that they expect they're expecting the Ravens to be about an 8-point favorite over us under neutral circumstances. That's probably about right. I mean, I think that's similar to the Green Bay line, right? That's
Right.
7 on neutral ground, kind of a spread. Um, the Ravens have what we don't have, right? They have that elite quarterback
Hmm.
in Lamar Jackson, who's playing out of this world right now, is a true dual threat quarterback, and you really cannot stop that man. There's not much you can do to stop him. He is the big threat. Where the Ravens are weak is in two areas, in my opinion. Um, on defense, they are not the team they used to be.
Hmm.
They let go of Wink Martindale and they replaced him with McDonald, their new DC, who was defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh at
Yeah,
Michigan last
Michigan.
year. Right, and they kind of grew. There was this whole thing where an assistant coach in Baltimore, went there for a year, and he probably should have stayed at Michigan, but they kind of groomed him for the job, brought him back to replace Wink Martindale, and I think part of what prompted that was John Harbaugh and some people in that front office blame Wink Martindale's style of, heavy
So he's the
blitz.
complete opposite of Wink. He is not a
Really,
blitzer,
no,
and he's not a man guy. He's a zone guy, heavy zone.
he's from the sort of the new,
That
the Vic,
new,
the Vic
yeah,
Fangio school
cover
of like
cover and let your
cover
front four
two,
get there.
right, cover two. Not I don't think he does as much rotation as Fangio. I think it's more of a typical like cover two type situation.
Yeah.
Their pass defense has not been very good. Their run defense has been good. Um, but their pass defense has been getting beat. And, some of the same guys that you've seen, except a key loss they had is they lost their starting free safety. And he's on the IR now. So Kyle Hamilton, the rookie, those of you remember the rookie out of Notre Dame, he's now their starting free safety. And talented kid, but that's a weak spot in that defense. They're going to rely on Hamilton. Hamilton has speed issues. He ran a 4.7 and a 4.8 at the combine in his pro day, and his game tape matched that. He's not very fast. A lot of people thought he's really an outside linebacker. So, their
Wow.
defensive weak, we'll see how his career plays out, but their defensive weaknesses are in their pass defense.
Mm.
They're pretty good against the run, actually. So, again, kind of like last week, this is a team that's not going to be blitz heavy. This is a team that plays a lot of soft coverage and has some weaknesses on the secondary level. This is a game where a quarterback should be able to pick apart a defense, right? And really like eat the soft spots in zone. There are going to be a lot of when we go through the all 22 of next week's game. I guarantee you're going to see guys open in the soft parts of the zone and the intermediate routes, especially if Wandale Robinson is back,
The
right?
crossing routes should be effective just like they were in last
Right.
game.
So the keys to winning this game, in my opinion, are actually winning this off of Daniel Jones's arm. Yeah, they're going to run the ball a lot with Saquon Barkley because that's who we are. But I do think that you can beat them with a passing game. So if Daniel Jones is good at all in this game, and he can find those soft spots, that's a key to victory. The other key to victory to me is, on the defensive side, Lamar Jackson, I was talking to Matt, who covers it. He's in one of our chats and he covers the Giants for the Cowboys for
Because the
Cowboys Wire.
Cowboys, right?
And he and I were discussing what are the type of coverages you would use against Lamar Jackson. He said, "Well, I would recommend cover two with press."
A heavy zone. So your
And
secondary could be looking at Lamar. I'm
and I
assuming.
and I disagreed, and I said I really think that we're going to be playing a lot of cover three
I
with
think so
single
too.
high. And the reason I said that is a couple of reasons. So Lamar Jackson has changed the way he's throwing the ball. He's throwing the ball better, but
Yep.
he's killing teams on the intermediate route, mainly because he doesn't have his receivers. I think Bateman is hurt this week.
Right.
Mark Andrews is a terror. Isaiah Likely, the rookie out of Coastal Carolina, is a terror at tight end. He just destroys teams over the middle and on the intermediary range. That's where he eats.
And Duvernay too, who's a
Duvernay,
pretty good wide
he's
receiver,
the one
looking
receiver
good. Yeah.
over the top,
Hmm.
right? So, in my opinion, what I expect to see Wink Martindale do is run a lot of cover three. I think he's going to have, just like in the Carolina game, he had his best player take out their best player. I think you're going to see Xavier McKinney on Mark Andrews the entire game and
Ooh.
shadow him all game. I think Dane Belton's going to be our center field safety in this game, and I think we're going to play a lot of 3-4 safety sets. I think we're going to see a lot of Julian Love and Landon Collins with the other two safeties on the field at the same time, with Collins playing, will linebacker a lot,
I think
but
so
with a
too.
little bit with a little bit more coverage ability than Tay Crowder, obviously.
Right.
Um, So I think that's our defensive plan. But at the end of the day, I think what wins this game for us, if we can win it, is again second half. John Harbaugh has done a poor job of coaching in the second half. He's not adjusted well to other teams' game plans, and that's where our coaches excel. So if this is a close game going into the second half, I think this is a game the Giants can win. So I'm going to buck Vegas here, and I'm going to say the Giants are going to win this game 23-20.
All right, I'll go ahead and then I might finish it up for us. I'll say this: two things that jumped off my quick off my head is Lamar Jackson's time to throw right now is at 3.6. He is the third highest quarterback with a time to throw, other than Daniel Jones and what's the Chicago quarterback? Justin Fields. So my opinion, if we can get to Lamar, this game could actually be really ugly. So on defense, we got to get to Lamar. We got to speed up his clock. Lamar is getting rid of the ball. Even though that's his time to throw, I do like what I'm seeing out of Lamar. He's throwing a lot to the flats. He's getting rid of the ball quick. But according to his NFL stats, his time to throw is extremely high, which makes me feel better. If Leonard Williams is in this game to help stop the run, and with that time to throw really high, I think that's gonna be us. It's gonna really be scary for the Ravens, to the point where we might not allow too many points with the Ravens. In terms of our offense, if the Ravens make the mistake of not blitzing Jones, of playing zone, of not playing press man against these mediocre receiving core, they're going to give us the game away if they stick to those plans. I think they have to come to and play just like everybody else is trying to play us. They got to play that man single high, try to stop Barkley from going off and saying, hey, Daniel Jones, do it again for another week. Beat us, because you've never shown that you could put two back-to-back weeks together of great games, or even good games. Can you do it again? And that's where I'll leave it at me. Mike, what about you? What do you think are some keys to this game for the Giants and Ravens?
Keys for us predominantly are going to be slowing down the Ravens' rushing attack. J.K. Dobbins came back last week.
We're sucking at that right now. We're sucking at that.
Dobbins looked very good running the ball. He ran with power. He looked like he had good balance. He had good burst. He looked really good. If Bateman is out, I would expect
Duvernay had runs too, and Duvernay was looking good running the ball against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I would expect also that we're going to see a lot of two tight end sets. To Sal's point, the Ravens do love that intermediate type of throw.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think defensively, we're going to need to see the edge rushers, what they call a mud rush. Right? They're going to keep contained and create pressure by not actually getting to the quarterback. And I know that sounds ridiculous.
I know what you're talking about. Don't leave the gap so that Lamar could just escape and just gash you.
If they break contain, Lamar's going to gash him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the speed we don't have the speed at the linebacking position. I understand Landon Collins was probably going to play this week.
Even McKinney can't keep up with Lamar.
But if Lamar they break contain and Lamar gets out in space against Wink's defense, it's all she wrote. Mm-hmm. Okay, like it's what it is, and that's a concern for me. Is going to be can Thibodeau resist the urge of going after the quarterback? Right, like you've seen Thibodeau get close last week against Rodgers. He's running him down, and he just can't get to him. If he can get to Rodgers, he's going to have a much harder time getting to Lamar. Lamar's significantly more elusive with much quicker feet to get out of the pocket.
Yeah, he wasn't able to sack the Bears QB. He's definitely not going to be able to sack Lamar. Lamar is even quicker and agile than the Bears QB.
Right. So that defensively, the key is going to be keeping contained. It's going to be stopping the run. The Ravens are going to struggle. Trying to hit the ball deep. You saw it last week against Cincinnati. Lamar had the guy wide open. He just didn't set his feet, and he missed the throw. So it's going to be
overthrew into the interception, right?
Yeah, it's going to be taking away the intermediate throws, and successfully being able to create pressure without breaking contain. Those are going to be the keys in that regard. offensively, where I disagree with you, I think the Ravens are going to play a ton of zone this week, and I think they're going to play a lot of cover too, and they are going to force Daniel Jones to have to pick them apart over and over and over again.
So you don't think they will load the box?
And I'm going to tell you why. This coaching staff is going to do the things they need to do in order to. They're going to block 7, negate it, right, and give them time. So I think you're more inclined. I think I think Ajabo's technically supposed to be back. Actually, this week he's practicing already this week, and he may suit up. They're getting their other edge rusher back this week that is going to be playing this week. So the Ravens are getting some reinforcements on the defensive side of the ball going into this week. That could wreak some havoc.
So Ajabo's going to be a season opener this week.
It's very possible.
Bowser's definitely playing. I don't know about Ajabo. Ajabo practiced for the first time.
Wow. Okay.
Bowser should play.
You're talking about possibility now of Evan Neal's going to have to go up against more of a speed rush, which is something that he's trying to get better with, right? I just don't see the Ravens defensively
making adjustments.
I just don't see them simplifying it enough to make it easier for Daniel Jones to pick them apart. I think they're going to play as much zone as they possibly can, and they're going to rush their guys. They're going to rush their front that they have, and they're going to tell Jones, "We're going to sit back in zone. You want to win this game? You're going to need to dink and dunk your way all the way down this field and play complete mistake-free football because we're not going to make it easy on you, and you're going to have to actually make decisions to win." Because that's the adjustment that opposing teams are going to make. It's not if we blitz Daniel Jones. Well, what good is blitzing Daniel Jones if the offensive coaching staff is smart enough to block 7? 7 in. Now I got man on and I've got guys in space because I got open field and it's an easier read for the quarterback.
He's still gonna have time.
I'm going to tell you, if I'm the Ravens, I'm telling the Giants, you want to win this game? I'll run the ball. You could run. Go ahead. I'm willing to concede the yards that Saquon is going to get in the game, but I am not going to allow your quarterback an opportunity to make it easy for him to find a way to win this game. I'm just not. So that's the caveat. And I know the thing with Jones, if you blitz him, you do that. I don't see it. I think they're going to be very disciplined in their run gap fits for what the Ravens are going to do. They're going to play a lot more zone, and I would expect that they're going to have Jones have to dissect off his first read, move on to his second read, and they're going to take away that simplification process. And I would like to see how Dable and them are going to react. And they stay disciplined enough. If they're giving up the running room, do they just stick with that all game? Can they stay disciplined enough to do that all game? So, me right now, I think off the Packers game says, man, I want to pick the Giants so much this week because of the momentum coming off a big one. Like it's just that momentum, and the Ravens have looked shaky, and they're coming off a tough divisional game, and it may be prime to pick them off. But I think the Ravens are going to end up winning this game. Okay. My head says that Baltimore is going to win it.
All right, so let's get some scores out here. Give me your score on that, Mike, on the Ravens winning this game.
I think we're probably looking at a 19-17 game.
All right, Sal, give me your scores on this game.
Giants 23, Ravens 20.
I'm gonna go with 24-20 Giants also for this week, and yeah, let's leave it at there, guys. Yo, Mike,
reminder.
Go ahead.
Just a reminder before you wrap.
Yep.
The Ravens have the advantage in the special teams as well. They're kicking. They're going to have an advantage with the kicking unit.
They have the better kicker.
And as much as Graham Gano has been great, he's not Justin Tucker
at all. It's one of the few weeks that we're not gonna have the better kicker on the field.
Yeah, so that will play into this game.
Absolutely. Big shout out to everybody who's on the chat, man. Big shout out to Ash, Big Dash, Trey, everybody who was here, Jay, Ivan, Adam, Thank you so much for everybody for coming through, spending some time with us, man. I appreciate that. Guys, follow my co-host at _Queen Queens_guy. Mike, give your Twitter handle, please.
Mikey said 66.
All right, and big shout out to Manny. Manny, we hope to have you soon on. And that's my agenda 58 from Manny Madrigal. So for Sal, for Mike, for Manny, I'm Tone. Hope you yourself have a good one, guys.